The rain had started 3 hours ago, and Lauren Matthews was soaked through to her bones. She sat on the curb outside the closed coffee shop, her simple gray dress clinging to her skin, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth that would not come. The streetlights cast yellow pools on the wet pavement, and the city felt emptier than it ever had before. 24 hours ago, Lauren had been evicted from her apartment. 48 hours ago, she had lost her job at the bookstore when the owner decided to close down after 30 years in business. 72 hours ago, she had sent her last $200 to her mother for medical bills, believing she would make it work somehow. She always had before. But tonight, sitting in the rain with nowhere to go and no one to call, Lauren was beginning to wonder if there was a limit to how much one person could endure. She was 26 years old and she had nothing. No home, no job, no safety net. Just a backpack with some clothes and a heart that was trying very hard not to break completely. A sleek blue car pulled up to the curb, its headlights cutting through the rain. Lauren looked up, expecting the driver to ask for directions or to tell her to move along. Instead, the window rolled down, and a man in an expensive suit looked out at her with an expression she could not quite read. He was handsome in that polished way that came with money and privilege. Dark hair styled perfectly despite the late hour. A suit that probably cost more than Lauren had earned in 6 months. Everything about him screamed success and power. Everything except his eyes, which held something that looked almost like desperation. "I have a strange request," the man said, his voice steady but somehow fragile. "And I will pay you $1,000 if you agree to it." Lauren's first instinct was to run. Nothing good ever came from strange men offering money to women sitting alone at night. But something in his tone stopped her. This was not the voice of someone looking to exploit her vulnerability. This was the voice of someone who was vulnerable himself. "What kind of request?" she asked carefully. The man held up $1,000 in cash, the bills crisp and new. "I need you to hold my hand for 1 hour. That is all. No conversation required unless you want to talk. No expectations beyond that. Just sit in my car, hold my hand, and help me get through the next 60 minutes. Lauren stared at him, trying to understand if this was real or if exhaustion had finally pushed her into hallucinating. "Why would you pay someone $1,000 just to hold your hand?" The man's jaw tightened, and Lauren saw pain flash across his face. "Because today is the anniversary of the day my wife died, and for the past 3 years, I have spent this night alone, remembering how she held my hand at the end and told me not to forget how to let people in. I have failed at that completely. Tonight, I do not want to be alone with my grief. But I also cannot pretend to be social or okay. I just need human contact. Someone who will not judge me or try to fix me or expect me to be anything other than a man who is hurting." The honesty in his words hit Lauren like a wave. Here was a man who clearly had everything money could buy, and yet he was sitting in his car in the rain, willing to pay a stranger for the simple comfort of held hands. It was one of the saddest things she had ever heard. "I am sorry about your wife," Lauren said softly. "That must be incredibly painful." "It is," the man said. "Every single day, but especially today. So will you help me? 1 hour. $1,000. You look like you could use the money, and I could use the company. We both get what we need." Lauren thought about refusing. About the strangeness of the situation and all the reasons this could be dangerous. But she also thought about the sincerity in his eyes and the fact that she had no better options tonight. And if she was being completely honest, she understood loneliness. She understood needing connection even when you could not explain why or how. "Okay," she said quietly. 1 hour. The man unlocked the passenger door and Lauren climbed into the warm car, immediately grateful to be out of the rain. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne, and the seats were heated. It felt like luxury she had almost forgotten existed. The man held out his hand, and Lauren took it. His palm was warm, his grip gentle but firm. They sat there in silence for several minutes, just holding hands, while the rain drummed on the roof of the car. "My name is Graham," he finally said. "Graham Westfield." Lauren recognized the name immediately. Westfield Technologies, one of the largest software companies in the country. Graham Westfield was not just wealthy, he was a billionaire, and he was holding hands with a homeless woman in a car on a rainy street. "Lauren," she said. "Lauren Matthews. Thank you for doing this, Lauren. You have no idea how much I needed it." "I think I might," Lauren said softly. "I understand what it feels like to need something you cannot explain to anyone else." Graham looked at her with new interest. "You are not going to ask me why I do not just call a friend or a family member?" "Would they understand?" Lauren asked. "Or would they try to make you feel better and move on? Sometimes the people who love us most are the worst at sitting with us in our pain. They want to fix it so badly that they cannot just be present with it." Graham's hand tightened around hers. "You understand that perfectly. How?" Lauren hesitated, then decided honesty deserved honesty. "I lost my father 2 years ago. He was my best friend. Everyone kept telling me to be strong, to focus on the good memories, to celebrate his life instead of mourning his death. But I just wanted to be sad. I wanted someone to sit with me and acknowledge that losing him was devastating and unfair and not something that needed to be reframed into something positive. I wanted permission to grieve without having to perform strength for everyone else." "Did anyone give you that permission?" Graham asked quietly. "No," Lauren admitted. "Everyone meant well, but no one could just let me hurt without trying to make it better." They sat in silence again, but it felt different now. More comfortable. Two strangers united by the understanding that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is nothing at all. Just presence. Just witness. "Just being there? Can I ask you something?" Graham said after a while. "Why are you sitting outside in the rain? You do not have to answer if you do not want to." Lauren saw no point in lying. "I was evicted yesterday. Lost my job 2 days before that. I sent the last of my money to my mother for her medical bills. I have nowhere to go tonight. I was trying to figure out my next move when you pulled up." Graham was quiet, processing this. "So you are homeless and broke, and I just offered you money to hold my hand. That must have seemed like either a miracle or a trap." "A little of both," Lauren admitted. "But mostly I just saw someone who was hurting and needed help. The money is secondary to the fact that I can do something for another human being who is struggling. That matters to me." "Even when you are struggling yourself?" Graham asked, something like wonder in his voice. "Especially then," Lauren said. "When you have nothing, the things you can still give become more valuable. Kindness, presence, understanding. Those do not cost money. They just cost caring enough to offer them." Graham turned to look at her fully. "You are remarkable. Do you know that?" Lauren felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I am just a person trying to get through a hard time. Same as you." "No," Graham said firmly. "You are more than that. I have met countless people in my life, Lauren. Business partners, investors, people who want something from me. But I have never met someone sitting in the rain with nothing who still had the generosity of spirit to comfort a stranger. That is not common. That is extraordinary." Lauren did not know what to say to that. She had never thought of herself as extraordinary. She was just doing what felt right. They talked for the next hour. Graham told her about his wife, Caroline, who had been a teacher before cancer took her at 32. He told her about the guilt he carried for all the time he had spent working instead of with her. About how success felt meaningless when the person he most wanted to share it with was gone. About the loneliness of being surrounded by people who saw him as a resource instead of a person. Lauren told him about her father, about growing up without much money but with so much love. About her dream of being a writer that she had put aside to work jobs that paid the bills. About feeling lost and scared but trying to maintain faith that things would get better. By the time an hour had passed, they were no longer strangers. They were two people who had let each other into their pain and found unexpected comfort there. Graham held out the $1,000. "I promised you payment." Lauren looked at the money, then at Graham. "I cannot take this." "Why not?" "We had an agreement." "Because this stopped being a transaction about 30 minutes ago," Lauren said. "You needed someone to sit with you in your grief. I needed to remember that connection still exists, even in the darkest moments. We both got what we needed. Taking money for that feels wrong." Graham stared at her. "You are sitting here with nothing, and you are refusing $1,000 because it feels wrong to accept payment for genuine human connection?" "Yes," Lauren said simply. Graham was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What if I offered you something different? Not payment for tonight, but an opportunity. I need an assistant, someone who understands people and has integrity and is not just looking at me as a stepping stone to something else. The pay is good. It comes with benefits and a signing bonus that would cover first and last month's rent on an apartment. Would you consider that?" Lauren felt her breath catch. "You are offering me a job? You do not even know me." "I know that you chose to comfort a stranger instead of protecting yourself. I know that you refused money you desperately needed because you valued authenticity over survival. I know that in 1 hour, you showed me more genuine compassion than most people have in 3 years. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." "I have no experience being an executive assistant," Lauren said. "But you have experience being human," Graham said. "That is rarer and more valuable than you think. I can teach you the technical parts. I cannot teach integrity or kindness. You already have those. So what do you say? Will you take a chance on me the way I am taking a chance on you?" Lauren looked at this man who had been a stranger an hour ago and now felt like something close to a friend. She thought about all the ways this could be a mistake, all the ways it could go wrong. But she also thought about how sometimes the universe sends us exactly what we need, exactly when we need it, wrapped in the most unexpected packages. "Yes," she said, "I will take the chance." Graham smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Lauren had seen from him all night. "Good. Here is what we are going to do. Tonight, I am going to take you to a hotel and get you a room. Tomorrow, we will go apartment hunting and get you set up somewhere safe. Then we will work on getting you settled into the job. Does that work?" "That is too much," Lauren protested. "It is an investment in someone I believe in," Graham said. "Let me do this, please." Lauren felt tears prick her eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because you were kind to me first," Graham said simply. "Because you saw past the money and the car and everything else to the person underneath who was hurting. Because in my darkest moment, you gave me exactly what I needed without asking for anything in return. That kind of goodness deserves to be rewarded. That kind of person deserves a chance." Over the next months, Lauren discovered that Graham was a man of his word. He gave her a job that challenged and fulfilled her. He became not just her boss, but her friend. And slowly, through their unlikely connection, both of them began to heal. Graham learned to open up again, to trust that not everyone wanted something from him beyond genuine friendship. Lauren learned that accepting help was not weakness, that letting people support you could be a gift to them as much as to you. 2 years later, when Graham asked Lauren to dinner at a fancy restaurant, she knew something was different. They had shared countless meals by then, but this felt significant. "I need to tell you something," Graham said over dessert. "The night I met you, I was at my lowest point. I had been planning to drive off a bridge after that hour was up. I could not see any reason to keep going. The loneliness was crushing me, and I thought maybe Caroline had the right idea leaving this world behind." Lauren felt her heart stop. "Graham, but then you got in my car," he continued, "and you held my hand without judgment. You listened without trying to fix me. You reminded me that connection is still possible, that kindness still exists, that there are people in this world worth knowing and worth staying for. You saved my life that night, Lauren. Not with grand gestures or solutions, but just by being present and real and human. Tears streamed down Lauren's face. You saved mine too. I had nowhere to go. I was out of options. You gave me more than a job. You gave me hope. So we saved each other, Graham said softly. He reached across the table and took her hand, the same way he had that first rainy night. And I have realized something over these past 2 years. I have fallen in love with you. With your kindness and your strength and the way you see people. I know this is complicated. I know I am still healing from losing Caroline. But I also know that she would want me to be happy. And you make me happy in ways I never thought I would feel again. Lauren squeezed his hand, her heart full. I love you too. I have for a while now. I was just afraid to say it. We have both been afraid of so many things, Graham said. Maybe it is time we choose courage instead. That night, they walked through the rain together, just like they had the night they met. But this time, they were not strangers seeking comfort from loneliness. They were two people who had found healing in the most unexpected place, who had learned that sometimes the greatest transformations come from the simplest gestures of human kindness. Years later, Graham and Lauren would tell their story to anyone who asked how they met. About a rainy night and a strange request. About $1,000 and a held hand. About two broken people who found wholeness in each other. And they would always emphasize the same lesson. That sometimes what we need most cannot be bought or earned or achieved. Sometimes what we need most is simply another human being willing to sit with us in our pain, to hold our hand in the darkness, and to remind us that we are not alone. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more meaningful stories. In the comments, tell us about a time when a simple act of kindness from a stranger changed your perspective or your path. Your stories remind us all that connection and compassion can transform lives in the most unexpected ways.